Welcome to Path to Recovery. I'm Apryl Chapman Thomas, chatting with 4 attractions from Martin County, Florida. Joining me today is Tammy Clara of the Children's Museum of the Treasure Coast, Mark Perry of Florida Oceanography Society, Todd Faust of the Sailfish Splash Water Park, Rob Steele with the Elliott Museum. Thank you guys for being here. I'm going to start this off with just jump in. First one, jump in and tell us a little bit about your attraction.
Sure, I'll jump in. My name's Todd Faust. I'm the Water Park Aquatics and Park Administrator for Martin County. We have Sailfish Splash Water Park as one of our attractions. We are a community water park and aquatics center. And we obviously closed for a while back in March and April and have since reopened our doors. We also manage Phipps Park Campground and several other parks throughout the county.
Anyone next?
All right, I'll take off. That's Mark Perry, Executive Director of Florida Oceanographic Society. The organization's been around since 1964, and we've in Stewart headquartered. So we moved out to a new site here on Hutchinson Island, across from the Stewart Public Beach and Elliott Museum, and that's back in 1987. And we began to build our coastal center, which is like a nature center, eco center, open to the public. We have over a mile and a half of nature trails throughout the property. It goes all the way back to the Indian River Lagoon from A1A. So we opened the first visitor center here at the Coastal Center in 1994, and we've had about that first year about 6,000 visitors, and it's grown to about 60,000 visitors a year. We have a lot of featured exhibits over on the 57-acre property, which is owned by Martin County, and we have a 750,000 gallon game fish lagoon, which has sea turtles and sharks and tarpon and a lot of beautiful game fish for people to see. We have hands-on exhibits, touch tanks, stingray feeding programs, a lot of nature walks and trails. It's just a great place for families to visit. We really are excited about what we're doing in the future coming up. We have a new Ocean Eco Center that we're building on campus as well. So it's an exciting future, and of course, that it all hit hard by our the COVID-19 situation. But we're proud to be an attraction here in Martin County, and we're proud to provide not only the educational aspects but also the advocacy and trying to make our waters better in our community and restore habitats in our estuaries and nearshore reefs.
Next.
I'll go next. Tammy Calabria, Children's Museum of the Treasure Coast. The Children's Museum has been opened since 2002. It was a 10-year emerging museum project that I joined in 2002, but we opened in 2008. I don't know where my mind is. Sorry about that. We offer hands-on educational exhibits for kids to explore and learn through. We also are partners in classrooms, private organizations, and other nonprofit educational facilities we offer services to. We receive about 80,000 visitors per year. We started out small as well with about 30,000 annual visitors, but that's increased over the years. We were forced to shut down on March 15th due to COVID, and we just opened a couple weeks ago. It's been a pretty smooth transition opening back up. Our members were excited to see us reopen, and our visitors as well. We've opened on limited hours and limited capacity, and increased obviously the cleaning procedures and limiting space, the number of people in each exhibit. So that's the Children's Museum. We also have a feature signature exhibit. It's a one-of-a-kind exhibit. It's a 56-foot Spanish galleon. It's a 17th century merchant ship. So that's kind of one of the things that we're known for, our pirate ship with all the kids.
And our last attraction?
Hi, I'm Rob Steele, the President and CEO of the Historical Society of Martin County. The Historical Society is the umbrella under which the Elliott Museum and the Gilbertspire House of Refuge museums both rest. So both those museums are on Hutchinson Island, about 1.9 miles apart from each other. The House of Refuge was built in 1876. It's the oldest, most iconic structure in Martin County, and it was a rescue station. Then it became a Coast Guard station, a U.S. naval station during World War II, where a lot of people would climb the tower and use their binoculars to spot German U-boats off the coast of Florida. It was also a turtle center for a number of years, and now it's a historical museum. And this all started in 1961 with the Historical Society of Martin County. Elliott Museum was built in 61, and we've been going strong ever since. The Elliott Museum was rebuilt about 7 years ago, right across the street from Florida Oceanographic, in its same original spot.
When you get those to CC,
1,000
she's going to have to return those.
museum, multi-purpose. I'm sitting inside Enrico Caruso's 1915 Packard limousine inside the Boomerang, which is a jukebox for cars. You might see a car going up and down a 3-story elevator behind me. People can come and choose what car they'd like to see, and it brings it out and spins it around. We have the largest collection of signed baseballs and baseball cards outside of Cooperstown, New York. And now we're doing a really great job with local history and art. There's always something new happening at the Elliott Museum. We have something to amaze you 360 days a year, and we're changing it up all the time. We'd love to have you come out. We closed on March 17th due to the COVID-19 situation. We reopened on July 6th. We were very, very fortunate. We were successful in getting some of the federal and state aid to help us through this period of time when we were closed. And we took that time to reinvent the museum. We changed every corner, reorganized, built new exhibits, created a brand new art gallery. So it ended up being an actual blessing to us to be closed in that period of time. So we're very thankful it happened, and the reopening has gone smooth as silk. We're open regular hours, and we're seeing our normal traffic that we would at this time of the year. So very happy about that. Very optimistic about the future, as I am for everything going on in Martin County. We've got a nice, closely tight-knit group of nonprofits in this area, and we don't compete with each other so much as we help each other.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to ask y'all to walk us back to the shutdown and talk about maybe some of the challenges that the attractions faced and how you worked to maybe overcome them for the reopening. Anybody wants to jump in and take the first one?
Sure. For the water park attraction, we shut down by state order. And then once the governor enacted a phase 2, we had to submit a reopening plan that was adopted by the Board of County Commissioners and approved by the governor. So big challenge was nobody had really had any reopening plans at that point in time. So it was kind of, figuring out what we needed to do to accomplish to be able to reopen. So we identified several different priorities or different areas. So we have to talk about the health and safety communication and signage that we'd have in the park, and the communications with our guests. We talk about, from the human resource management side of things, trying to keep our staff, how are we going to keep our staff healthy and safe. We talked about how are we in a water park attraction going to create physical distancing. What will our new park capacities be? So we're operating no more than 50% of capacity in the park, as well as keeping and restricting access to each body of water and maintaining those at 50% capacity. Then the other issue of increasing the sanitation, housekeeping, and cleaning operations. so that people that come to our attraction feel safe coming to our environment. And then we have the facility maintenance and technical side of that. We've increased our chlorination levels in the water. We've redone some things in terms of our aquatic operations as far as rescue procedures and the different water attractions protocol. Doing some new things with first aid, admission. We kind of break down the operations by each section. So, you have lifeguarding, admissions, food and beverage operations, gift shop, retail, merchandise, and even procurement management, and how we manage each of those operations by keeping distancing, setting up additional hand washing stations, as well as in keeping our patrons and our staff safe and healthy.
What do you feel like you've learned from this period?
I think it was a big learning period. I mean, we've never managed anything like this before, and we had to do it for several facilities. So we did this both for the water park. We have a different plan for the campground, and another plan for like Sand Dune Cafe and the beaches in Indian Riverside Park, because each venue that we have is different, and so they all require different procedures. I think the biggest thing is that I connected more with a lot of other park operators and trying to find out what are they doing, and really in creating this plan, it was a network of sharing with other operators.
Robbie said that you reopened, that the Elliott Museum has reopened. Talk about that process.
I'm sorry, say again?
I'm sorry, with the Elliott Museum reopening, talk about that process. What were the protocols put in place, and is it easy for a museum, or were there challenges?
It actually came along rather smoothly. We have a copious space with 50,000 square feet, and our stated capacity is 1,130 people at any given time over 2 stories. So we just dialed back the capacity to something that approaches, a maximum we'd ever have in the summer months to 100. So we were at a fraction of our capacity. We put dots from the front. We created an entrance and exit, and we put dots on the floor to keep people socially distanced while they're standing in queue. And redid our front counters, new equipment using the Clover system, so everything's touchless. There's no interaction between our staff and our guests coming in. And then we just meter it. We keep 3 to 5 minutes in between groups as they come in. Everybody's very comfortable with that protocol because they want to be safe while they're enjoying the attraction. So that went really smoothly, and people are just in a great mood. They're so happy to be out and doing something. We've had more families than I've ever seen in my short time here, because it's summer, they have time off, and they're looking for things to do, and they've been cooped up for a long time. So that's very uplifting too. We hired a service that comes in twice a week and sanitizes the whole building with the atomizing alcohol sprayers. And then we go around in between that and take care of railings and any other high touch surfaces. We're a museum, so we're at a slight advantage because we've trained people for thousands of years. Don't touch things when you're in the museum. So for the most part, they leave everything alone. The few areas that we have where they're interactive, we have a sanitizer in place and protocols in place to keep that safe. But it's all based on the spirit of the people, and everybody is so ready to get out and restore some manner of normalcy to their lives. So it's been a great joy and a great blessing to be reopened. We're really happy.
Now, what would you say you've learned during this time?
I've got to get closer to you because the car's moving.
What would you say that you've learned during this time?
The chief what?
What would you say that you've learned during this time?
I've learned that at the top of your pyramid, you need to keep your staff together. You have to keep your crew together. I mean, I know everyone in the room, and you work hard to put together that great team, and you'd hate to have some outside crisis come along to divide your team. So the big challenge was to find enough money when your income sources have been stripped away to keep your team together and keep everyone on an, you know, upbeat path. And so that was challenging, and I won't say I didn't lose sleep over it, because to try and come back when this is over and rebuild a team like that is just, I don't know if I'd be up for that challenge or not. So very important, and thanks to the good help we had from federal government and other sources, we've been able to do that so far.
Tammy, tell us about the challenges of a children's museum. You had to face, has to be different than everyone else's.
I think Mark and I kind of have the same challenges, and we're entertaining family and a lot of kids. But one of our biggest challenges we thought going in was going to have kids wearing face masks, and we were pleasantly surprised that we had no resistance whatsoever from parents. Even the children that didn't come with a face mask, they were happy to do a donation for a face mask, or we give a face mask to the groups. We actually had a school group in today of 30 kids, and none of them had masks on. Neither did the counselors, didn't either. So we had to give all of the kids and the counselors masks because they weren't aware that they had to wear masks. So there are people that are uninformed, so that's a little bit of a challenge, but you know, they're very receptive when we are offering information to them and going over our guidelines. We've definitely kind of followed the flows of groups and cleaned behind them as they're entering, because the museum is kind of a living creature. So at no time are the kids stationary. They're kind of running around all over the place. So we just want to make sure that all the touch points are being cleaned. But we really thought it was going to be a little more challenging entertaining the kids and the parents being concerned, but we've just haven't had an overwhelming response that people are happy to see people on the floor cleaning constantly, limiting the number of people that we're allowing in each exhibit and in the museum overall. And the face mask requirements we all did from the very beginning, before it was even required. One of the challenges I think for us, you know, in regards to staffing, and it's great that we were able to get the Paycheck Protection funding, but the timing of it was a little off for us. We were able to keep our staff, but that was then the time of the closing. So our 8-week plan that we had designed from the day we received the funding, you know, we couldn't really extend it beyond to 24 weeks. So we were limited to that 8 weeks. And now we're being challenged with, you know, the loss of revenue and lower attendance. Since the summer is our peak time in our season, we're challenged with, we've had to lay off a couple of employees. So we have lost some team members, because since the paycheck protection money was exhausted completely within that 8 weeks, we're still recovering from the loss of over $300,000 during that time period. So that's just been a little bit of a challenge for us moving forward.
What did you learn during this time, during the time of the shutdown to the reopening?
You know, I think the main thing I learned is you can't make a plan. You know, there's so many uncertainties with this whole situation. You know, we're still not guaranteed that we might not get shut down again with the increase in the numbers of cases. So, you know, just when you think you have a plan and you're like, okay, where's this, how we're going to move forward? You know, 2 days later, everything changes and you have to reevaluate that plan. So, you know, I'm a planner, so I kind of like to try and stick with the plan. So I learned very quickly that that was impossible during this time, and it's still kind of impossible. But it was hard for me as a planner to have to adjust to that.
Mark, how about you? Let's talk about your experience.
Yeah, very good. We very similar. We closed in the middle of March 17th, and just reopened in June 10th. But that first part of the time we were under the orders to close, and then as phase 2 began and the executive order allowed 50% capacity with face coverings and things, social distance, our team was really effortless, putting together the effort to have a plan. And so we developed our internal guidelines and how we were going to treat guests, how we were going to do cleanings and limit our capacities to 50%. And so we divided up into 2 sessions, and morning and afternoon, and we're, instead of 7 days a week, we're open 5 days a week currently until we see some more ability to expand. We're all operating under these limited conditions. And like the museums and others, then aquatic areas, we're having to make sure that all the touch areas are kind of off limits. We've taken away a lot of our interactive exhibits, unfortunately, that people have touched, and we clean a lot of surfaces, of course, and we hand out masks. We were able to get a lot of the PPE masks to be able to hand out to people in case they came without one. But our guidelines are 6 years and older are wearing masks, and people are fine with that, and they seem to come and really enjoy. And like Rob said, people are wanting to get outside and do things. We were able to start our summer camps. We shifted everybody who was booked in June into July and part of August. And those summer camps are somewhat limited and, of course, keeping distance. But parents are very happy to get the kids out and doing things and interacting with stuff. We're also doing guided sea turtle walks on a very limited basis, but those are twice a week. So we're back opening up. But again, this came at as Tammy said, a very bad time for everybody. Our peak season here on this Treasure Coast area is, as you know, that February, March, and April timeframe. And we were all planning our special events, our big events, our kind of big attendance at that time. So it's a very big hit, if you will, for the economic functions and our financial abilities to keep going. So we're fortunate again to get some recovery from that by the PPP loan program and being able to get that funding, but other donors and sponsors came forward and supporters. Again, like other museums, we're very fortunate to have a great community of supporters who understand our situations and understand what we're having to go through to keep our mission going, keep things going. So they've come forward and helped to support us. Some of the things I learned too is that, we collaborated a lot with others, all the people that you see here, but also outside and within our region to find out what they're doing and how is it working as we opened up. And I think that collaboration is still going on. And that kind of triggered that aspect of it. We also we learned a lot about our volunteers and trying to communicate with them. We depend a lot on volunteers coming in, and being able to communicate with them is really important. And also the virtual kind of learning experience. We had done virtual experiences before and outreach to schools and others, but this is kind of a whole new ball game, and it helps us to really get involved in how that can work in the future. So it really triggered a lot of new ways that we look at programming. We look at expanding our outreach to other geographical areas and not just our own. So it really helped us to be inspired to write other future lessons and lesson plans and things like that. So unfortunately, though, a lot of what we see here at the center, I think we are fortunate in that, unlike a performing arts or something, we're outside. We're a lot of our outside activities. We space people around the ray tank program or the game fish feeding program. And then we have a very vast nature trail system. So as people go on the nature trails, they feel very comfortable at social distancing and enjoying our beautiful nature environment. So we learned a lot through this experience, and we're hopefully going to recover soon.
As we wrap up our chat, my last question is, what advice would y'all give to those in the industry? What words of wisdom do you have to share? I'll start with
you. I'll start out again. Words of wisdom to those in the industry are you can never really prepare for this. I mean, this came on us all of a sudden. We're used to hurricanes, we're used to storms and severe events, but when it comes up and all of a sudden it's affecting everybody across the line, no matter who you are, how old you are, whatever's going on. It was such a dramatic impact that it's hard to prepare for. But you can, if you have the flexibility and you have your plans in place, and if anything we've learned from this is to have some sort of emergency plan in place in case something happens. I think we're all at risk still, and our teams are at risk, our volunteers, people that we depend to keep our mission going are at risk. And so we all have to be very cautious coming out of this, but it's taught us to, let's all collaborate on how we're doing with each other. Let's collaborate on what works and what is working and how we can reopen and how we can do things better in the future. So it's really helped to benefit us. So I think let's keep the collaboration going. Let's keep our conversations going about this, even beyond the pandemic. And let's learn from this. I think that's our main message, or my main message, or our compatriots there.
Would anybody else like to add?
Sure, I think the collaboration that Mark was talking about is really important, both at the local level. I mean, this is a global pandemic, so it was affecting people on a global basis. So we also collaborated a lot with other water park managers and associations, such as the World Water Park Association, the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions, to see what everybody around the country and even the world were doing as far as development of reopening plans and how they were working. And we sat in on a lot of Zoom meetings talking about it with other park operators. So the collaboration was really important, both at the local and national level.
And Rob or Tammy, would you like to add in anything?
I'd just like to talk a second about agility. One of our strategic goals was actually to build more organizational agility so that we're ready to change things up and be ready to adapt to any situation. And that proved to be a good thing. If you emerge from this coronavirus, if your organization emerges as the same organization that you went into the crisis as, you're going to have a tough time. You've got to be able to do a lot of self-introspection, self-examination, and say, what are we doing well? Where are we slipping? Where can we improve? So my advice is take this time to make yourself a more dynamic, better organization. It really can be useful. We all have things to learn, and we're learning a lot from each other. It's so amazing. We talk on Zoom like this, the same scenario, every week in one capacity or another, and you share a lot of great information and support, so you feel like you're not alone in all this, because you're not.
And Tammy?
I would mirror what everybody says, but one of the things that, my advice is really leaning on your boards. Our board has really stepped up and, proven that they can get us through any type of crisis. There's talents there, untapped resources, that we have found during this time. And it really took us saying, look, we're in a crisis situation. And those board members really did step up, even ones that maybe weren't as participatory as in the past. They've really just, kind of risen to the occasion and filled some of the needs that we couldn't fill staff-wise, and just reached out. So I think that's, one of the things moving forward is really, reach out to anyone who's invested in your organization, and they're always willing to help.
Excellent. Well, thank you everyone for joining me today. I really appreciate everyone sharing their insights and personal stories.
You're welcome, man.
Great to meet you.
Thank you.